audit firm KPMG will try to right its wrongs by distributing 47 million rand to civil society organizations. The money comes from fees it received from auditing the books of Gupta companies. KPMG has faced a backlash after it admitted that work produced for the Guptas fell below industry standards. It's lost a number of clients as a result. Now, joining us to unpack this latest development is Henley Business School Africa's Dean and Director, John Foster-Pedley. John, good morning. Thank you very much for coming in.
Pleasure.
Just overall, an overriding question. Is KPMG doing the right thing, in your view?
Well, look, let's give credit where credit's due. Putting 47 million into those organizations, they're going to benefit hugely, and that's a great thing. And it is doing a part of the right thing. But KPMG, I think, have missed the trick here. I mean, the big issue is the consequence of this money. You know, they took 47 million in fees, but you add, what about the fees for the SARS rogue unit, the VBS fees they took? But what about the consequences of what they did? And what's happened is that it's facilitated probably state capture and facilitated malpractice, and that's had enormous damage to organizations, to the country as a whole.
And in your view, that damage is worth much more than 47 million?
Much, much more. I mean, I think this is a problem. We constrain our boundary of thinking to the organization we sit in, but we live in a society where opportunity is taken from people who need to grow up out of the townships through education, through good facilities. And that is taxpayers' money that should be used for better things. Let's have a very clear accountability and acknowledgement of this causes damage to society, not just to the company.
So for you, that's still the missing part. So if KPMG had come out to say, we are giving the 47 million to the organizations that are addressing issues of corruption in business society, like the ones that they've chosen, like Democracy Works Foundation, the Social Justice Initiative, and we also recognize the damage that our actions actually did in terms of society, and for that we are sorry. Do you think that would go far enough?
That's the missing link, because when we all start talking about how this damages society, we're changing the consciousness of the society and also changing corporate culture and the way we think in corporates. Now, if KPMG were to have acted speedily, very transparently, acknowledged and taken accountability for what they've done, and said, we are going to transform ourselves to the best, most transparent, the highest level of corporate transparency and ethics in the country, and now over the next 3 years we're going to transform ourselves to that, and we're going to assist corporate culture to change in South Africa, and we're going to have tough conversations in the boardrooms and with our peer companies to change those practices. Now we've got something that's going to change the situation. We don't want to look like we're doing a PR exercise with the fees, so it just looks like papering over the cracks. This is a much deeper issue, and one we need to be much more activist about.
I mean, they've also suffered a lot. I mean, they've been dumped by very important clients on their books as an auditing firm, like Nedbank, like ABSA, even the Auditor General's Office of the Republic of South Africa has dumped them. How do you think they can then recover from this, beyond what you've just said about they need to be seen to be leading the way through transparency now, to be having those tough conversations in the boardrooms? How else could they then recover?
I think they need to initiate a sort of corporate activism program inside their organization. They ought to sponsor internal change. They ought to sponsor fora on how to change the corporate culture in South Africa. They ought to be the leaders in dialogue about how state capture, corruption doesn't just damage the businesses, and it's not a victimless crime, but it damages the development of the country for our children and their children's children. Let's get that on the table so we see what we're dealing with here. And then we can't have the evasion, and you can't have ministers leaving saying, no, no, I want my job back, you know, when clearly they've not been doing their job. What we want is people who are accountable and have a societal connection.
So it's about leadership. It's about the right kind of leadership.
It's about integrity, it's about character, it's about honesty. I mean, hats off to KPMG, they're trying something, but they could do so much more, and so could we all.
Okay, thank you very much. Very clear views there. Henley Business School Africa's Dean and Director, John Foster-Pedley, just giving us some of his views and insights about the KPMG's decision to distribute 47 million rand in the fees it got from the Gupta-owned companies back into civil society. Well,